So apparently, through the use of LiDAR, they have discovered that there are enormous structures underneath the Great Pyramid.
Deep under the sands of Giza, beyond where sunlight can reach, explorers stepped into a shaft that felt more like a descent into another world. The air grew colder, the walls closed in, and at the very bottom, almost 30 meters below the surface, their lights hit something impossible: a massive stone coffin resting in dark, silent water. It didn't sit on a platform. It didn't touch the chamber floor. It looked as if it floated, suspended in a pool carved out thousands of years ago. No one knew who placed it there. No one knew why the chamber was built so deep, or why it was filled with water at all. Some whispered it was a tomb. Others thought it was a trap. But when archaeologists examined the scene closely, they found something far more unsettling. Something that suggested the ancient legend of a watery underworld beneath Giza might not be a myth after all. Long before anyone climbed into that flooded shaft, the idea of hidden lakes beneath the pyramids had already haunted human imagination. More than 2,000 years ago, the Greek historian Herodotus wrote that Pharaoh Khufu's tomb wasn't inside the Great Pyramid at all, but deep underground, on an island surrounded by water. He claimed channels from the Nile flowed into a secret chamber, protecting the king in death. Most scholars brush this off as myth. After all, Herodotus never saw the chamber himself. He repeated what temple priests told him, and many believe the story was more symbolic than literal. But then another ancient writer, Strabo, described a hidden well leading into the pyramids, a detail that made Herodotus' story harder to ignore. Still, no one expected these early accounts to match anything real. Not until explorers entered a shaft at Giza and found water exactly where legends said it would be.
Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss inspiring discoveries of faith, archaeology, and prophecy. Like and share this video to a friend or family. Your support helps us to spread this word of grace.
To understand why those ancient stories mattered so much, you have to know what water meant to the people who built the pyramids. To them, water wasn't just part of nature, it was the beginning of everything. In their creation myths, the world rose out of a dark, endless sea called Nun. And from those waters came Osiris, the god linked to death, rebirth, and the underworld. So when Egyptians imagined a king's journey after death, they pictured him passing through water to be reborn, just like Osiris. Tomb texts even describe the pharaoh traveling over the waters of darkness to reach the stars. This symbolism was so strong that later generations may have taken it literally, telling visitors that a pharaoh rested on an island beneath the earth. But here's the strange part. Centuries later, when explorers reached the bottom of Giza's deepest shafts, they found water waiting for them too. Over 1,000 years after Herodotus, new voices kept the watery legend alive. Medieval Arab scholars, exploring Egypt long before modern archaeology, wrote strikingly similar accounts. Abd al-Latif al-Baghdadi, a traveler and physician, described deep shafts and hidden tunnels beneath Giza, some of them filled with water. Locals told him stories of sealed chambers, stone boxes, and ancient knowledge protected by underground floods. Then came al-Makrizi, one of Egypt's most detailed historians. He recorded tales of pre-flood builders hiding their wisdom in vaults surrounded by water, guarded against disaster. He didn't claim these were literal truths, but he didn't dismiss them either. To readers of his time, the pyramids were more than stone. They were warnings from a forgotten age, and the idea of water beneath them felt both mystical and dangerous. And centuries later, when European explorers arrived, they found something that made these old stories impossible to ignore. When European explorers reached Giza in the early 1800s, they weren't prepared for what they found. Giovanni Battista Caviglia, digging near the Coffin Causeway, discovered deep vertical shafts carved into the bedrock, some more than 30 meters straight down. At the bottom of one, his torchlight hit murky, motionless water. And beneath that surface, he believed he saw a massive rectangular block, possibly a sarcophagus. Henry Salt, the British consul who funded the work, described it as a sepulchral cavity filled with water. To them, this wasn't just geology, it felt like they had stepped into the very legend Herodotus described. The idea spread quickly. Maybe the ancients really had built underwater tombs to protect their dead. Other explorers soon reported the same thing. Shafts filled with rising water, stone boxes, and dark chambers no one could fully reach. But all of them missed one crucial detail, one that modern science would reveal. What the early explorers didn't know was that the Giza Plateau is alive beneath the surface. The limestone bedrock is full of cracks, pockets, and natural channels, and every year when the Nile flooded, water didn't just rise on the land, it rose under it. Modern geologists later discovered that the groundwater table beneath Giza can climb several meters, pushing water into the deepest shafts and unfinished tombs. This meant the underground lakes weren't engineered by ancient builders at all. They were created by nature. Still, the effect was eerie. Carved chambers half submerged in still, dark water, exactly like the old legends described. Ground-penetrating radar and electrical surveys even mapped the water's movement, proving that Giza's underground world is constantly shifting. But if nature caused the flooding, then why was there a coffin sitting at the bottom of one of these shafts? And why did it look like it was floating? Modern archaeology finally brought answers and new mysteries. In the 1990s and early 2000s, teams led by Egyptian archaeologists revisited the deep shaft near Khafre's Causeway, now known as the Osiris Shaft. They descended through 3 levels, each carved deeper into the bedrock, until they reached the lowest chamber, a room flooded with cold, still water. And there, resting in the center, was a massive granite coffin carved from Aswan stone. It wasn't floating, but the water around it made it look like it was suspended in a dark pool. The chamber felt untouched, almost like a ritual space. Researchers measured the water depth and found it came straight from the groundwater table, not an ancient canal. The coffin was empty, yet its placement was deliberate. Someone had carved a burial chamber far below the surface, then left it submerged in darkness. But the biggest question remained unanswered. Why build a tomb where water would eventually rise to claim it? You might think the mystery ended once archaeologists mapped the shaft and examined the empty coffin. But in the age of the internet, the story was just beginning. Around 2018, photos and fragments of research leaked online, showing the water-filled chamber and its granite sarcophagus. Social media did the rest. Within months, a new claim spread everywhere. A coffin was found floating in an underground lake beneath Giza, and nobody knew what was inside. Videos showed dim, echoing tunnels. Posts hinted at hidden mummies, secret rituals, even government cover-ups. None of it matched the actual reports, but the images were powerful. They looked like a discovery straight out of ancient myth. A coffin surrounded by silent water, untouched for ages. Experts tried to explain the truth. Groundwater, an empty sarcophagus, natural flooding. But the legend had already taken on its own life. And soon people began asking a deeper question. What else lies under Giza that we still haven't reached? The reason this story keeps coming back isn't just the photos or the mystery. It's something deeper. Across history, people have always been drawn to places where the living world touches the unknown. And Giza is one of the strongest symbols of that boundary. The idea of a coffin in an underground lake taps into something ancient. The fear of darkness, the pull of hidden knowledge, and the belief that the past still holds secrets we're not meant to see. Psychologists say humans are wired to fill gaps with imagination, especially when a mystery feels
almost explainable. And at Giza, that gap is huge. We know the pyramids hide tunnels, voids, and unfinished chambers. We know water still moves under the plateau. We know whole areas remain sealed. So when people see a coffin in a flooded room, they don't think geology, they think underworld. And that raises a final, unsettling possibility, one modern science hasn't fully ruled out. Archaeologists have mapped the Osiris Shaft. They've measured the water. They've identified the granite coffin and confirmed it's empty. But here's what they haven't explained: why someone carved a chamber so deep that it would one day drown, or why a coffin was placed in a room designed to be swallowed by darkness. No inscription names the owner. No texts describe the ritual. No records explain its purpose. And that's not the only mystery. Beneath the Giza plateau, ground scans have revealed other voids. Long, silent spaces no one has entered, sealed since the age of the pharaohs. Some lie deeper than the Osiris Shaft. Some sit in places where no tombs should exist at all. So the question remains, if one coffin was left waiting in water at the bottom of the plateau, what might be waiting in the chambers we still haven't reached?